In life, we often find ourselves in situations that take unexpected turns, leaving us feeling vulnerable and uneasy. This story delves into a spine-tingling encounter that unfolded during a friend's 21st birthday party. It's a story that serves as a reminder to always trust our instincts and stay vigilant, even in the midst of celebrations. It all began on a night filled with jubilation and merriment as we gathered to celebrate my friend's 21st birthday. The party was a grand affair, brimming with laughter, music, and, of course, copious amounts of alcohol. The house was a whirlwind of activity, with an eclectic mix of guests, many of whom I didn't even know. Amid the cacophony of voices and the frenzy of dancing, one particular figure caught my attention. Amidst the revelry, I couldn't help but notice a lone, enigmatic figure. An older man sat in the corner of the room, observing the festivities with an eerie intensity. Initially, I brushed it off, assuming he might be a relative, perhaps someone's dad or uncle who had joined the celebration. However, as the night wore on and the number of guests dwindled, he remained seated, a solitary presence that raised a growing sense of unease. Curiosity gnawed me, and I finally turned to one of my friends to inquire about this mysterious guest. To my surprise, my friend had no idea who he was. As the night pressed on, and the clock edged closer to dawn, the man still occupied his lonely corner. It was a lingering presence that was hard to ignore. As the majority of the guests bid their farewells and left for the night, the man continued to sit there, seemingly unaffected by the dwindling crowd. This unnerved me and a few friends who had stayed behind. We decided to wait, hoping that he would eventually depart like the rest. As the last of the guests exited the house, we ventured back into the living room, half expecting to find it vacant. However, to our disconcertment, he was still there, a solitary figure in the dimly lit room. My relief at seeing the other partygoers off was short-lived, replaced by a growing sense of dread. The man's continued presence felt out of place and downright eerie. It was a disconcerting situation, and we couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. We exchanged uneasy glances, contemplating what to do next. In the end, a few friends and I decided to spend the night at the house. I settled onto the couch in the den, my body weary from the celebration and alcohol coursing through my veins. Falling asleep came easily, but it soon became apparent that staying asleep would be a challenge. In the dead of night, I awoke with an intense thirst and the need to use the bathroom. I headed to the bathroom first, as it was closer, and then made my way to the kitchen for a glass of water. However, when I returned to the den and reclined on the couch, something caught my attention. My gaze fixated on the sliding door to the coat closet situated directly across from the couch. To my alarm, I realized that it had been slightly ajar, revealing darkness within. Panic surged through me as I recalled the presence of the unsettling man from earlier in the night. The idea that he might be hiding inside the closet sent shivers down my spine. I lay still, barely daring to breathe, convinced that he was watching me through the open closet door. In that moment, my mind raced, and I began to formulate an escape plan. As I lay there, my heart pounding, I watched as the closet door slid open a little further. It was a hair-raising moment, and I knew I had to gather the courage to act. My escape route was clear in my mind. I would leap over the nearby couch and make my way to the stairway leading upstairs to the living room. However, summoning the bravery to execute this plan proved challenging. Then, the closet door slid open a little more, and my instincts kicked into high gear. It was now or never. With a surge of adrenaline, I catapulted over the couch and sprinted up the stairs. The sound of the closet door fully sliding open and the footsteps of someone giving chase echoed behind me. Panic seized me as I raced toward the safety of my friends. I screamed at them, urging them to wake up and take action. As I reached the living room, I turned to see if the intruder was following me. However, to my astonishment, he never ascended the stairs. I stood there, panting and bewildered, as the realization set in, he had not pursued me further. My friends, now fully awakened and alarmed by my frantic state, demanded an explanation. I recounted the events, explaining that the unsettling man from the party had been hiding in the closet and had nearly chased me up the stairs. We were not about to take any chances. Fear coursing through our veins, we decided to call the police. As we dialed 911, the eerie feeling in the house persisted, and we couldn't shake the sense that we were being watched. When the police arrived, they conducted a thorough search of the house. However, the intruder was nowhere to be found. He had seemingly vanished into thin air, leaving behind a chilling sense of unease. The officers took our statements and assured us that they would investigate the incident. The events of that night left an indelible mark on all of us who were there. It serves as a stark reminder that danger can sometimes lurk in the most unexpected of places, even amidst celebrations. Trusting our instincts, staying vigilant, and seeking help when needed are crucial lessons that we should all take to heart. What was the ultimate fate of the intruder? Despite our efforts and the police investigation, the intruder was never apprehended. He managed to escape through the back door before the authorities arrived. How did you and your friends ensure your safety after this incident? Following the incident, we remained vigilant and took precautions to ensure our safety, such as securing doors and windows. We also stayed connected with law enforcement to provide any additional information that could aid in the investigation. Has there been any further information or developments regarding the intruder's identity or motives? Unfortunately, we have not received any updates regarding the intruder's identity or motives. The case remains unresolved, leaving us with lingering questions and a lingering sense of unease. In life, we often find ourselves in situations that take unexpected turns, leaving us baffled and unsettled. This story recounts a chilling encounter that unfolded in the home I shared with a roommate. It's a tale that serves as a reminder of the importance of security and vigilance, even in the most ordinary of places. It all began in a house that my aunt and uncle had been renting out for several years. After building a new place, the house became vacant, and I found myself living there alone for a few months. However, solitude can sometimes become monotonous, and the opportunity for a roommate soon presented itself. A colleague from work asked if I was interested in sharing the space, and I decided to give it a shot. Our new abode was a 2-bedroom house with an office situated in the garage. My roommate preferred having his own space, so he moved his belongings into the garage office. It was quite a cool setup, but it came with a catch: there was no bathroom or kitchen in the garage. As a result, he had to use the facilities inside the house. Our different work schedules meant that I often left the house unlocked for his convenience. One fateful night, I returned home after visiting my girlfriend for dinner. My intention was to enjoy a cold 6-pack of beer I had purchased the previous night. However, when I opened the fridge, I was met with an unwelcome surprise. My beer was nowhere to be found. I immediately assumed that my roommate had helped himself to my stash without asking, and I felt a surge of anger. Driven by frustration, I stormed into the garage and swung open the door to his bedroom. To my surprise, he was fast asleep and groggily awoke to my outburst. I confronted him, demanding to know why he had drunk my beer without permission. He vehemently denied any involvement, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. Given our time living together, I had a knack for gauging when he was lying, and I sensed that he was telling the truth. My heart sank as the chilling realization washed over me, someone had broken into our home and stolen our beer. Panicking, my roommate and I thoroughly searched the house, ensuring that all our belongings were accounted for. The TV was in its place, the furniture undisturbed, everything seemed intact. It was only when I entered my bedroom that the gravity of the situation hit me like a ton of bricks. My $2,000 laptop was missing. With a growing sense of dread, my roommate and I dialed the police and began scouring every nook and cranny of the house, holding on to a faint hope that I had merely misplaced the laptop. As time passed, that hope dwindled, and the reality of the situation set in. It's essential to note that we were not the only occupants of the house. A room had been added to the property several years after its construction. Initially, my aunt's ailing mother had resided there, making it easier for my aunt and uncle to care for her during her illness. Tragically, she passed away, prompting my aunt and uncle to rent the room to a mysterious woman. During our tenure in the house, it became evident that the woman had her share of issues, likely stemming from substance abuse. Her erratic behavior and the peculiar noises emanating from her side of the house at all hours of the night were hard to ignore. Several months later, her brother moved in, which struck us as strange, given the limited space. We assumed he slept on the couch, but his behavior was even more unsettling. He barely acknowledged our existence, and any attempts at conversation were met with vacant stares. One particularly unsettling night, he approached my roommate with an unusual request. He asked if he could procure drugs. This encounter left us feeling deeply uncomfortable and added to the sense of unease we had developed. During our search for the burglar, our attention was drawn to the garage door. To our astonishment, we discovered bare footprints in the snow, leading from the suite occupied by the strange siblings to our garage door. It didn't take long for us to connect the dots, and with a growing sense of urgency, we began pounding on their door. In response to our demands, someone inside the suite drew back the curtain and locked eyes with me. To this day, the memory of that chilling gaze sends shivers down my spine. The police arrived promptly, and we provided them with all the information we had. They inspected the house, but found no signs of the intruder. We shared with the officers the names of the individuals living in the adjoining suite, along with our concerns about their drug-related activities. To our dismay, the police revealed that the man had an outstanding warrant from another province and a history of breaking and entering. However, because the warrant was from a different jurisdiction, and technically he hadn't committed a crime at our location, there was little they could do. The officers departed, leaving us disheartened and frustrated. It was now well past 1 a.m., and exhaustion had begun to set in. We retired to our respective rooms, eager to put this unsettling ordeal behind us. It was that night that I made a bone-chilling discovery. I had forgotten that the door connecting our part of the house to the suite occupied by the peculiar siblings could only be locked from their side. As I lay in bed, barely awake, I heard footsteps outside my door, followed by loud banging. My doorknob began to shake violently. Fortunately, I had the foresight to lock my bedroom door that night, a habit I had carried from childhood due to an irrational fear. Looking back, I shudder to think of what might have occurred had I left my door open, allowing the intruder access to my room. Needless to say, my roommate and I wasted no time in moving out of that place a few weeks later. This unsettling experience serves as a stark reminder of the significance of maintaining security and staying vigilant, even in seemingly ordinary circumstances. It's a story that will forever remind me of the importance of protecting our personal space and ensuring our safety, no matter where we call home. How did you know it was the man from the neighboring suite who stole your laptop and beer? We discovered bare footprints in the snow leading from their suite to our garage, which raised suspicion. Additionally, the police informed us that the man had a history of breaking and entering. Did you ever recover your stolen laptop? Unfortunately, we never recovered the stolen laptop. Despite our efforts and the involvement of the police, the thief remained elusive. How did you and your roommate ensure your safety after this incident? We moved out of the house shortly after the incident, prioritizing our safety and peace of mind. In the realm of online dating, our quest for love often takes us on unexpected journeys. In this story, I'll share a gripping tale of my first date with a woman named Amelia, which took a series of bizarre and unsettling turns. After a recent breakup, I found myself back in the dating scene, navigating the unfamiliar territory of online dating. It was during this time that I connected with Amelia, a woman I met on an online dating website. Rather than opting for the conventional first date at a bar or restaurant, I decided to invite Amelia to my home for a homemade dinner. In my mind, it seemed like a relaxed and comfortable way to get to know each other. I had been out of the dating game for a while, so this unconventional approach felt right at the time. I prepared a delicious meal of penne alla vodka with garlic bread and wine, a combination I personally loved. The stage was set for what I hoped would be an enjoyable evening. Amelia arrived promptly at 6:30, and I welcomed her into my home. As she took her seat at the kitchen table, I began to engage in conversation, eager to get to know her better. However, I quickly noticed that she wasn't as talkative as I had expected. Despite my attempts to lead the conversation, it became evident that Amelia was not the easiest person to talk to. Nervousness crept in, considering this was my first date in years. The atmosphere became increasingly awkward. As dinner progressed, Amelia made an unusual request. She wanted a candle to make a proper cheers. Although it struck me as somewhat strange, I obliged and went to retrieve a candle and a lighter from the pantry closet in the hallway. Upon my return to the kitchen, I noticed something unsettling. Amelia had quickly resumed her seat, which raised suspicion. I couldn't help but wonder why she had hurriedly sat down, and it seemed somewhat sketchy. I lit the candle, and as we raised our glasses for a toast, I noticed something unusual floating in my wine glass, a powdery substance dissolving in the liquid. Panic set in, and I discreetly chose not to take a sip of the wine. I couldn't ignore the possibility that she had attempted to drug me. Despite the unsettling discovery, I continued the conversation, trying to remain composed. Accusing her of such actions without concrete evidence would be irrational and potentially harmful. After we finished our meal, Amelia excused herself, claiming that her dog was sick and she needed to leave. I had no objections, and I walked her to the door, offering a polite farewell. However, her departure was followed by an eerie incident that left me deeply unsettled. Back in my apartment, I attempted to return to my usual routine. However, my insomnia, which occasionally plagued me, made it impossible to sleep. As I tossed and turned in bed, the clock neared 2:30 a.m. Suddenly, the silence of the night was shattered by the sound of a cup falling in my kitchen. Cups don't just fall on their own, which left me alarmed and on edge. My bedroom door creaked open, and an unwelcome presence entered the room. I pretended to be asleep, fear coursing through me. A figure stood at the doorway for a brief moment before retreating. With one eye half open, I cautiously observed the intruder, who seemed to linger idly in the corner of the room. It was then that I realized the intruder was none other than Amelia, the woman I had just shared an unsettling dinner with. With my heart pounding, I addressed her by name, Amelia. I conveyed my willingness to refrain from involving the authorities if she left immediately. In a tense moment, she placed something back on the kitchen counter, walked toward the back door, and made her exit. Upon inspection, I discovered that the item Amelia had placed on the counter was a knife, a chilling revelation that sent shivers down my spine. Her intent was unclear, but it was clear that I needed to take action. I immediately locked the door, and without hesitation, I called 911 to report the disturbing intrusion. I recounted the series of unsettling events to the operator, who assured me that the police would be dispatched. The police arrived promptly and took the knife as evidence. Drawing from Amelia's criminal background, they began their investigation. My decision not to press charges would soon come into play. This unnerving experience serves as a cautionary tale of the unexpected twists and turns that can occur in the world of online dating. While it's essential to be open to new connections, it's equally crucial to prioritize your safety and trust your instincts when faced with unsettling situations. How did the narrator and Amelia meet? The narrator and Amelia met through an online dating website where they initially connected. Why did the narrator invite Amelia for dinner at home? The narrator chose to invite Amelia to his home for dinner, believing it would offer a more relaxed and comfortable atmosphere for their first date. What did the narrator observe during the dinner with Amelia? During the dinner, the narrator noticed that Amelia was not as talkative as expected, and the conversation felt somewhat awkward. What happened when the narrator left the kitchen to get a candle? When the narrator left the kitchen to retrieve a candle, Amelia quickly sat down, raising suspicions about her behavior. How did the encounter with Amelia end? After an unsettling encounter with Amelia in the middle of the night, the narrator called the police, who intervened in the situation. The narrator chose not to press charges, and the incident served as a cautionary tale. This tale underscores the importance of safety and vigilance in the world of online dating, reminding us to trust our instincts and seek help when faced with unexpected and potentially dangerous situations. In the quietude of a regular suburban home, a series of bizarre and spine-tingling events unfolded, leaving the inhabitants in shock and disbelief. This harrowing tale, which transpired just a few months ago, serves as a chilling reminder that danger can lurk where you least expect it. In this blog post, we will delve into the unnerving details of an intruder who hid in the most unexpected of places. Our story begins with an ordinary household in which the residents were blissfully unaware of the nightmare that would soon unfold. It was a typical night, and like any other evening, our protagonist plugged their phone into the electrical outlet under their bed to charge it. Little did they know that this seemingly routine act would mark the beginning of a series of inexplicable events. On a fateful Monday night in February, the protagonist was jolted awake by the blaring sound of their phone's alarm. To their bewilderment, the alarm had been set for 4 o'clock in the morning. Groggy and disoriented, they assumed it was a simple case of accidentally setting a new alarm. Dismissing it as a minor inconvenience, they disabled the alarm and tried to return to their slumber. However, the following night brought another unsettling occurrence. Once again, they were rudely awakened by the shrill sound of their phone's alarm, but this time it was 3 o'clock in the morning. Adding to the eerie nature of these interruptions, the alarm's title had been inexplicably changed to Beneath. The protagonist suspected that someone was playing a prank on them, perhaps their mischievous sibling. Convinced that their brother was behind the nocturnal disruptions, the protagonist confronted him the next morning. However, their sibling vehemently denied any involvement in tampering with the alarm. The mystery deepened as it became apparent that they were dealing with something beyond a simple prank. To regain control of their phone, the protagonist took security measures by setting a password and leaving a discreet note with the code behind their bed. The following night, they ensured that no additional alarms were set, leaving only one for 8 a.m. A sense of unease lingered as they settled in for the night. Their unease was justified when, once again, they awoke to the disconcerting sound of the alarm. The time displayed was 2 a.m., and this time, the alarm was titled up. Panic began to set in as they realized that the altered alarm titles were forming a chilling sentence, down beneath the bed. With their heart pounding, the protagonist reached beneath their bed to retrieve the phone charger that had mysteriously vanished. It was then that they felt something that chilled them to the core, a hand gripping their arm with a vice-like grip. Panic surged through them as they screamed for help, their cries echoing through the house. In the midst of their terror, the protagonist's parents were alerted by their frantic screams. Rushing to their child's aid, the father burst into the room armed with a baseball bat. A tense confrontation unfolded as the intruder struggled to maintain his grip on the petrified homeowner. With a swift and decisive blow, the father incapacitated the intruder, providing the family with a moment of respite. Law enforcement was summoned, and they arrived promptly to apprehend the intruder, revealing a disturbing criminal history. The police investigation uncovered that the intruder was a registered sex offender with a troubling record of 10 arrests. His motive appeared to be driven by a disturbing desire to terrify and traumatize his victims. The revelation that he had been hiding beneath the protagonist's bed for 4 days sent shivers down their spine. The chilling tale of the intruder beneath the bed serves as a stark reminder that danger can infiltrate the most sacred of spaces, our homes. It underscores the importance of vigilance, quick thinking, and the unwavering support of family when faced with unforeseen and perilous situations. This unsettling experience leaves us with a lingering sense of vulnerability, urging us to remain vigilant and prioritize our safety. In a world where inexplicable horrors can lurk just beneath the surface, it is essential to stay prepared and protect our sanctuaries from those who seek to invade our peace. How did the intruder gain access to the protagonist's home? The exact method by which the intruder gained access to the home is not specified in the story. It is a chilling reminder to always secure our homes and be cautious of potential vulnerabilities. Did the intruder have any specific intentions, aside from scaring the protagonist? While the intruder's motives are not explicitly mentioned, his criminal history and disturbing behavior suggest a troubling pattern of behavior. His presence alone was a cause for concern. How did the family recover from the traumatic experience? The story does not delve into the aftermath in great detail. However, it can be assumed that the family would have sought support, possibly through counseling or therapy, to cope with the trauma of the incident. Life can take unpredictable turns, and it's essential to be cautious, especially during late-night hours. In this story, we'll delve into a chilling encounter that unfolded in a parking lot after a late shift at work. The story underscores the importance of personal safety and being aware of your surroundings, even in seemingly harmless situations. As a college student in North Carolina, I juggled a busy schedule of classes and part-time work. To earn some extra cash, I took up a job at a local TJ Maxx store. Given my daytime class schedule, I often worked the later shifts, which meant finishing work in the late evening or early night. One particular night, as the clock approached 11 o'clock or 11:30, it was time to wrap up my shift. The store had a safety protocol in place for late-night departures. All employees left together, and a security guard would ensure that everyone reached their cars safely. It was a reassuring measure that provided a sense of security. On this fateful night, as I made my way to my car in the dimly lit parking lot, a sense of routine and safety filled me. However, what happened next would shatter that complacency. As I approached my vehicle, I heard the sound of a car pulling up behind me. Instinctively, I turned to see a woman in the driver's seat with her teenage daughter seated beside her in the passenger seat. The woman rolled down her window and initiated a conversation, her tone urgent and her story compelling. She claimed that they had just come to town to visit family, but they were out of gas and had no money to refuel their vehicle. With a seemingly genuine demeanor, the woman proceeded to ask if I could spare a few dollars to help them out. It was a familiar plea, one that often tugs at the heartstrings of kind-hearted individuals. However, my response was honest. I had no cash on me, a fact that I rarely carried currency with me. Undeterred by my lack of cash, the woman's tone shifted, and she made an unexpected request. She asked me to get into their car, accompany them to a nearby gas station, and purchase about $10 worth of gas for their vehicle. The proposition was unusual, to say the least, and it instantly raised red flags. As I declined her request, I took a moment to glance at the teenage daughter seated in the passenger seat. What I saw sent a shiver down my spine. The young girl had been staring at me intently the entire time, her actions far from ordinary. She was licking her lips nervously and compulsively wringing her fingers. Realizing the gravity of the situation, I knew I had to act swiftly. I politely but firmly refused the woman's request once more and promptly turned away from their car. It was then that I noticed they had pulled up closely behind my vehicle, effectively blocking my exit. Without a moment's hesitation, I made a split-second decision to retreat. I sprinted back toward the store where the security guard was stationed. The situation had escalated quickly, and I was acutely aware that my safety was at stake. Breathless and panicked, I reached the security guard and recounted the unsettling encounter I had just experienced. He didn't waste a moment and headed toward the car where the woman and her daughter remained. However, they had other plans. As soon as they realized the security guard was approaching, they hastily sped away, leaving behind a sense of relief mixed with lingering unease. This unnerving encounter serves as a stark reminder that safety should always be a top priority, even during what may seem like routine moments. Trusting your instincts and being cautious when faced with unusual requests or situations can make all the difference. Were the authorities notified about the incident? Although the security guard and I discussed notifying the authorities, we ultimately decided against it as the individuals left the scene. However, the incident was documented for reference. How can individuals stay safe in similar situations? Personal safety should always be paramount. If faced with an uncomfortable or suspicious situation, it's crucial to trust your instincts and prioritize your well-being. Seek assistance from security personnel or law enforcement when necessary. Have there been any updates or developments regarding the individuals involved? As of now, there have been no updates or developments regarding the individuals from the encounter. The incident remains a cautionary tale, underscoring the importance of vigilance and safety awareness. In the journey of life, we often encounter people who leave a lasting impression on us. Some of these encounters are pleasant, while others can be rather unsettling. In this story, I want to share a personal story from my childhood, highlighting an experience that I had while living with my dad. As an only child, I craved companionship with kids my own age, and this desire led me to a rather peculiar friendship with a boy named Tom. I was an only child, and the only time I was around kids my own age was when I ventured out to make friends with the neighborhood kids. One day, while riding my bike, I encountered a boy named Tom. He lived on the corner of my block, and our paths crossed as fate would have it. Tom, who was significantly older than me, surprisingly invited me to shoot some hoops with him. Being a friendly and outgoing kid, I decided to take him up on his offer. Little did I know that this encounter would mark the beginning of a rather unusual friendship. As Tom and I spent more time together, I learned that he, too, was an only child living with his dad. At first, I found him relatable, and we quickly formed a bond. I even gave him my phone number, and he would occasionally call me to hang out. We would often come together to play video games and have fun. However, things took a bizarre turn as our friendship progressed. Tom started behaving strangely, becoming increasingly possessive and clingy. He would call me incessantly, and if I didn't answer, he would leave irritated messages. Sometimes, he would go to the extreme of calling me 5 or 6 times in a row before coming over to my house and ringing the bell persistently. When my dad was at home, he would insist that I hang out with Tom, even though I had expressed my discomfort and found Tom's behavior creepy. It seemed like my dad didn't fully grasp the unsettling nature of the situation. One day, for the first time, Tom invited me into his house. I was apprehensive, but I felt cornered and had little choice but to accept. The moment I stepped inside, a foul and disgusting odor filled my nostrils. The sight was equally unsettling, clothes strewn all over the floor, broken glass in one corner, and what appeared to be coffee stains on the walls. It was a shockingly unkempt and unsanitary environment. To make matters worse, a menacing and imposing man emerged from another room. He glared at me with an intimidating look, causing me to instinctively step back. Tom introduced him as his father, and the man simply grunted and retreated to another room. It was clear that this family had some deep-seated issues. After that unsettling visit, I knew I had to distance myself from Tom. I made up an excuse to leave, claiming that I had a doctor's appointment. As I spoke, Tom's smile slowly faded, replaced by an unhappy, if not outright angry, expression. He didn't offer any response, just fixated on me with an unnerving stare. I hurriedly left his house and raced back to my own, hoping my dad would be there. However, upon arriving, I found the door locked. I used the key my dad had made me carry and entered, only to discover he wasn't home. As I wandered through my home, I noticed a small sticky note on the fridge. It read that my dad had been called into work for a possible storm emergency. I wished he were home with me at that moment, providing a sense of security. However, what happened next shook me to my core. When I checked my email that night, I found 5 new messages, all in capital letters, sent from an email address named tomtom20@aol.com. It was Tom. I had never shared my email with him, so I was baffled as to how he had acquired it. The subject lines were alarming, with titles like "You made a mistake" and "I know where you live." The contents of the emails were filled with profanity and threats. At only 12 years old, I was deeply intimidated and scared. As I contemplated calling my dad for help, I heard rustling bushes outside my window. When I peered out, I saw the towering figure of Tom's dad. He had a menacing presence, and I immediately recognized him. I dialed the police, but by the time they arrived, Tom's dad had disappeared into the night. When my dad returned home early due to the situation, he wasted no time in obtaining a restraining order against Tom and his father. About a month later, they moved out of the neighborhood, bringing an end to this harrowing chapter of my life. The experience of living with my dad during that period taught me the importance of recognizing when a friendship turns toxic and when to seek help. It also reinforced the value of family support during challenging times. As we navigate through life, we encounter both the pleasant and the disturbing. While this encounter with Tom was unsettling, it ultimately served as a valuable lesson in understanding the importance of personal boundaries and safety. In the world of modern dating, apps like Hinge have opened up exciting possibilities to connect with new people. However, not all encounters turn out as expected. In this story, I will share my personal experience with a digital dating mishap and the unexpected turn it took. I've been using the app Hinge to meet new people in the town I just recently moved to. One day, I matched with a girl named Kate. She was about 7 years older than me, which seemed like a bit of a gap. She's 30, and I'm 23. Despite the age difference, we decided to meet in person and explore the possibilities of a connection. Our rendezvous was set at a small restaurant in town. I waited eagerly in my car in the parking lot, excited to meet Kate. However, things took an unexpected turn from the moment she arrived. For some reason, Kate had trouble finding the restaurant and asked me to start sharing my location with her. Shortly after, she pulled up in an old, worn-out Honda, not quite what I had imagined. Disappointment crept in as I stepped out to greet her with a hug, but she declined, stating that she wasn't a hugger. It was an awkward start, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. As we sat down at a table inside the restaurant, I couldn't help but notice that Kate looked different from her pictures, and not in a good way. It seemed as though her pictures had been doctored to make her look better, and she appeared older than her claimed age of 30. Despite my reservations, I decided to carry on with the dinner. Throughout the dinner, I found myself counting down the minutes until it would be over. Kate's behavior added to the discomfort. She was unusually awkward, stuttering and speaking with an intensity that raised eyebrows. She declined my offer for wine and chose water instead, which only added to the awkward atmosphere. As the dinner came to an end, I wondered if Kate would offer to split the bill. However, she made no such gesture, leaving me to pay the entire check. We gathered our coats and prepared to leave, and that's when things took an even more unexpected turn. I said goodbye to Kate, eager to put the awkward encounter behind me. But she didn't reciprocate with a farewell. Instead, she simply walked to her car, leaving me with an unsettling feeling. Back at my apartment, which is the lower half of someone's house, I began hanging up my coat when the doorbell rang unexpectedly. I was surprised to see Kate at my door. I hadn't stopped sharing my location with her, but I couldn't fathom why she would show up unannounced. As I checked through the window to see who was at the door, it became clear that something was amiss. This woman, who had already left me feeling uneasy, was now standing on my doorstep without a clear reason. I retreated to the kitchen, turning off the lights and hiding in the shadows. Kate sent me a text, saying, "I know you're home." I responded, asking what she wanted and why she was there. Her response only heightened my anxiety. She texted, "Answer," and when I didn't reply immediately, she texted again, "I see you at the table, let me in now." It was a terrifying realization. She could see me through the window. I knew I had to take action. I called 911, reporting a trespassing incident, and kept the call on speakerphone so I could read the disturbing texts Kate was sending me. One of her messages read, "Nobody wants me. I'm sick of it." Another said, "You're just like the others." As I was on the phone with the 911 operator, I heard the sound of glass breaking outside my room. My heart raced as I locked my bedroom door and informed the operator that she was breaking into my house. The operator advised me to stay in my room and find something to use as a weapon while assuring me that the police were on their way. Fortunately, the local police had a fast response time, and 3 cop cars arrived within minutes. I cautiously opened my bedroom door to find Kate surrounded by 4 officers, already in handcuffs. She was swiftly taken into custody, charged with breaking and entering, and faced additional charges related to her actions. I had the option to take Kate to civil court for damages to my property, particularly the broken window. However, considering the time and legal fees involved, I decided it was more practical to cover the repair costs myself. Nevertheless, I obtained a restraining order against Kate to ensure my safety. It was only later that I learned Kate's real name was Pamela Castillo, adding another layer of mystery to this unsettling encounter. How did the narrator and Kate meet? The narrator and Kate initially met through the Hinge dating app, where they matched and decided to meet in person. What happened during their first encounter? Their first meeting didn't go as expected, with Kate appearing different from her online pictures and displaying awkward behavior throughout dinner. How did Kate end up at the narrator's apartment? After their initial encounter, the narrator continued sharing their location with Kate, who unexpectedly showed up at the narrator's apartment without a clear reason. How did the narrator react to Kate's presence? The narrator reacted with alarm and called 911 to report the trespassing incident while also hiding in their apartment. What were the consequences for Kate's actions? Kate, whose real name was revealed to be Pamela Castillo, was taken into custody by the police and faced charges related to breaking and entering, as well as other potential legal consequences. This cautionary tale serves as a reminder of the potential dangers of online dating and the importance of safety precautions when meeting new people in person. It's crucial to trust your instincts and seek help when faced with unsettling situations. In the realm of unsettling experiences, there are moments that not only send shivers down your spine, but leave an indelible mark on your psyche. This is the harrowing tale of an incident that occurred to someone close to the narrator, an incident that is a stark reminder that danger can strike unexpectedly, even within the sanctity of one's own neighborhood. In this story, we'll recount the chilling sequence of events that unfolded, leaving everyone involved in shock and disbelief. Our story begins with a seemingly ordinary day. The narrator had a friend, whom we'll call Ty, with whom they frequently communicated. They shared a strong bond, often hanging out and exchanging texts daily. However, one day, something seemed amiss. Ty, who was usually prompt in responding to messages, fell strangely silent. Growing concerned, the narrator decided to pay Ty a visit. After all, his house was just a block away, and it wouldn't hurt to check in on a friend. Little did they know that this well-intentioned visit would be the start of an inexplicable and terrifying journey. Upon reaching Ty's residence, the narrator was met with an eerie silence. They knocked and rang the doorbell repeatedly, but there was no response. Perplexingly, Ty's car was parked outside, indicating that he was home. A growing sense of unease settled over the narrator, who couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Hours passed, and Ty remained unresponsive. Despite the lingering unease, the narrator decided to retreat for the day, convinced that Ty simply needed some time alone. Little did they know that the night would bring a disturbing turn of events. As darkness blanketed the neighborhood, the narrator received an unexpected FaceTime call from an unfamiliar number. Cautiously, they accepted the call, making sure not to reveal their face immediately. When the video connection was established, the screen displayed Ty's face, but it wasn't the Ty they knew. He appeared drastically different, fatigued, disheveled, and wearing an expression of paranoia. He was in an unfamiliar room, and his demeanor was nothing short of alarming. Concerned and relieved to see their friend, the narrator revealed their face and engaged in conversation. The dialogue that ensued was unlike any interaction the narrator had ever had with Ty. He was elusive, providing vague responses to their inquiries. When questioned about his whereabouts in the unfamiliar room, Ty simply stated that he was fine and at home. The narrator couldn't help but notice the discomfort etched across his face. In a shocking twist, Ty abruptly made an unexpected request. He demanded an astonishing sum of $10,000, claiming he would pay it back. At first, the narrator chuckled, assuming it was a bizarre joke. However, Ty's seriousness was palpable, and his expression was filled with genuine concern. Perplexed and concerned for their friend, the narrator probed further, seeking to understand why Ty needed such an exorbitant amount of money. What followed was a disconcerting pause during which Ty stared intensely into the camera. It was a moment of unsettling silence, broken only when Ty uttered that he had to go, ending the call abruptly. The narrator was left bewildered and disturbed by this bizarre encounter. It was clear that something was gravely wrong with Ty, but the details remained elusive. The late hour prevented further action, and the narrator resolved to visit Ty's house the following day. Determined to unravel the mystery, the narrator wasted no time visiting Ty's residence the next morning. However, their repeated attempts to contact him and gain access to his home were met with silence and locked doors. It was as if Ty had vanished into thin air. As night descended once again, an eerie sense of foreboding hung in the air. Around the same time as the previous night's unsettling FaceTime call, the narrator's phone rang, displaying yet another unfamiliar number. Hesitantly, they answered the call, fearing the worst. To their profound dismay, Ty appeared on the screen, but this time, his condition was even more distressing. His appearance was nightmarish, disheveled, battered, and haunted. His hair was a tangled mess, a gash marred his forehead, and dark circles underscored his eyes. It was a stark contrast to the Ty they knew, and the transformation was nothing short of horrifying. In a voice trembling with fear, Ty made a chilling demand for $10,000. The narrator's refusal was met with desperation and a plea that still echoes in their memory. Ty implored them not to point a gun in my back, a phrase laden with ominous implications. The call ended abruptly, leaving the narrator paralyzed with fear. As the weight of Ty's words settled in, the narrator's mind raced to comprehend the sinister meaning behind them. It was as if Ty's life hung in the balance, and they were the only ones who could save him. Through sheer determination, they remembered the address Ty had mentioned and promptly contacted the authorities. The address led the police to an abandoned, decrepit house in a deserted part of town. It was a place far removed from the familiarity of the narrator's neighborhood. In the basement of this desolate abode, the officers made a horrifying discovery. Ty, beaten and battered, lay barely clinging to life. The perpetrator, a sadistic individual who had subjected Ty to unimaginable torment, had already fled the scene. The timely intervention of law enforcement had saved Ty's life, but the trauma he endured would leave scars that ran far deeper than the physical. The harrowing abduction of Ty is a stark reminder that danger can lurk in the most unexpected of places. It underscores the importance of swift action and unwavering support from friends and law enforcement when faced with unimaginable horrors. Ty's ordeal serves as a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the resilience of those who survive such terrifying ordeals. As we navigate our lives, we must remain vigilant and prioritize the safety of our loved ones. This chilling tale serves as a haunting reminder that even in the familiarity of our own neighborhoods, darkness can descend and the ordinary can turn into a nightmare. What was the motive behind Ty's abduction? The story does not provide explicit details about the motive behind Ty's abduction. However, the abductor's actions suggest a sinister and sadistic intent as they subjected Ty to physical and psychological torment. How did Ty recover from the ordeal? The story does not delve into the details of Ty's recovery. It can be assumed that he received medical attention and support, and his healing process would likely involve therapy and counseling to address the trauma. Was the abductor apprehended? The story mentions that the perpetrator had already fled the scene when the police arrived. The fate of the abductor is left unresolved in the narrative.